Are the protests against war at the Chicago DNC making it feel like 1968 again? Some experts don't think so. In late April, a teacher shared his thoughts, saying things are similar to 1968 with protests at Columbia University and a guy named Robert Kennedy running for president. This made many people think about comparisons between 1968 and 2024, especially with the DNC in Chicago and student protests against wars, Vietnam then and the Israel-Gaza conflict now. Senator Bernie Sanders said the situation in the Middle East and the U.S. response to it might be Biden's Vietnam. He's worried Biden might alienate young people in the Democratic base with his views on Israel. However, experts warn against relying too much on comparing 1968 to 2024, saying a lot has changed since then. Both years had protests against U.S. involvement in foreign wars, but historians point out that the scale and nature of the wars and protests are different. The U.S. was heavily involved in Vietnam in 1968, with troops directly sent into combat, unlike the situation with the Israel-Gaza conflict. While the ongoing conflict in the Middle East has inspired protests in the U.S., they're smaller compared to the consistent anti-war protests of the 1960s. Despite some similarities, historians caution against viewing 2024 through the lens of 1968. Anthony Michael Kreese believes both years are crucial, but they differ in the level of political violence and social unrest. He emphasizes that 1968 was exceptionally turbulent in American politics and society. The Democratic Party has changed since 1968, becoming more diverse and inclusive. Today, disillusioned voters have different options compared to 1968, with third-party candidates seen more as spoilers. The risks for Democrats are different now, and it's less likely disillusioned Democrats will switch to Trump. As for the DNC convention, experts don't expect floor chaos like in 1968, but there might be protests outside. The convention has become more of a formality since then. Rather than comparing directly to 1968, experts suggest studying changes over time in voting behavior, trust in democracy, and attitudes toward things like the Electoral College and money in politics to better understand the current situation.